2020 was the year that changed the world. From global lockdowns to mandatory masks and the dreaded social distancing, it won't be forgotten, right? For my family and I, though, it was a year of great joy and tremendous loss. With our 7th child entering the world 3 weeks before COVID, thank God she came, before COVID, and my husband Jude's 2-year battle with stage 4 glioblastoma coming to an end weeks before Thanksgiving. You know, like a roller coaster of emotions, we ended the year just like the rest of you, like changed. I have this photo of Jude on our mantle at home. Mostly so my kids and I can remember him just like this. Because if you knew Jude, you would know. If you wanted to find him, he would be at the beach. He was either fishing or searching for treasures with his butterfly net. In fact, I took this photo of Jude on our final date night as we walked the shores of Lake Michigan in the very same place that we met 2 decades ago. Jude and I, we were high school sweethearts. And Jude was a nurse practitioner in neurology. So it was pretty hard. It was difficult, but it was ironic that the very disease that they labeled the Death Star in his profession was what took him from us. And when he was on hospice, he would gesture to me when he couldn't speak to hold his 8-month-old daughter every single day. You know, Jude was my hero. And our family grew to 7 beautiful children, and each one of them are a reminder to me daily of Jude's love for life. You know, sometimes life just throws you that curveball, and we're left with the countless memories, but the stories that are locked away within us. You know, for some of us, well, I find it fascinating that when we hear stories, our brains light up on the MRIs in 5 places. No, it's like a game of Pac-Man. Our brains are hungry for stories. And neurocoupling, which is this amazing gift that we get to experience when we engage with a storyteller, our brains sync with theirs. And it's powerful because so many people have stories that can change us, that can teach us. And we can actually feel the emotions of the storyteller when we engage, thanks to neurocoupling. We can gain empathy, but we can gain new perspective. It's a gift that, you know, can tear down walls. And our brains, they were made for connection. Some of us, you know, our stories, they can overwhelm us. They can isolate us. But for the courageous, for those who are willing to share their stories, you know, even in the lowest parts of your life, you are a powerful source of strength to a weakened and broken system. You know, COVID-19 was sort of like this alarm that went off. You know, it was exposing the elephant in the room. He reported that loneliness was an epidemic. Half of Americans, they reported feelings of loneliness even before the pandemic. And 1 in 6 people worldwide suffer from feeling alone. The World Health Organization, they said that social isolation was worse on our health than smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Maybe you guys heard that. Without meaningful connections, we are left vulnerable to so many negative outcomes. And here's a list of some of the risks that we take when we live socially isolated. Heart disease, dementia, depression, anxiety, a weakened immune system, cognitive decline, obesity, and yes, premature death. And we have a 30% higher percentage of dying early when we live socially isolated. But there's a study. It was one of the longest studies out of Harvard, and the research showed us that when we had warm, close, connected relationships, we actually were happier. I mean, that's kind of obvious, right? But when we're happier and we're more positive, well, our immune systems are stronger. And that got me thinking, what is this social connection that can give us happier and healthier lives? And the definition of social connection is the experience of feeling close and connected to others, feeling seen, known, cared for by the people in our lives. And I'll be honest, when I read that definition, I wondered if I was truly socially connected. A lot of us, we live disconnected lives. We don't even realize it with our smartphones, our social media, and even our disconnected relationships. They can give us a sense of connection, but we feel drained, and we feel less, maybe more alone than ever before. The truth is, true connection is more than pretty pictures of our day. And it takes time, it's intentional. It's calling up your friend and asking them about their day instead of scrolling. It's maybe opening up and sharing something that's upsetting you to a trusted friend instead of just pretending like you're okay. But you can't really control or what other people think or say about the narrative of your story. But we can go from lonely to loved in seconds. It's worth the risk. The funeral director, he pulled into my driveway. And I don't think anyone's really prepared for that moment. And I rushed out to meet him, and I forgot my coat inside. And it was a cold November afternoon on the lake. And he got out of the car, and he handed me Jude's urn. And as soon as he came, he left, and there I was, standing, shivering, holding this heavy urn, and it felt like someone just walked into my story and just turned the lights off, It felt like my life was over. I hadn't talked to anyone, I think, in over a month. The hospice nurses, they tried their very best, but they couldn't even come into the house unless they were checking Jude's vitals, and then they would leave. I think it was one of the loneliest and most isolating times of my life. But then I looked up, and there was this woman, and she was standing at the edge of my driveway. And she was smiling at me, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, why now? Why any other time? I would have loved to have talked to her, but it felt impossible for me in that moment. But something inside of me told me to try. So I did. And about 2 seconds later, I bursted into tears, like ugly crying, and I'm just staring at the pavement, watching my tears hit the sidewalk, and I'm so embarrassed. I'm thinking I'm going to look back up and she's going to be gone. She's just going to keep walking, right? I wouldn't have blamed her. She had COVID as this amazing excuse, but what she did shocked me. She stepped over that 6-foot rule. She put her hand on my arm and she asked me what was the matter, genuinely. And in that moment, I decided I would share my story with her. So I told her, I'm a widow now with 7 kids. And I actually cried on the stranger's shoulder. And all she said, was that she was sorry. It was simple, but it was powerful. It felt like my lights just went right back on. And in that moment, I felt like I could keep going, And she didn't really say a lot. She just said, I'm sorry, but she engaged. And it was powerful. And I didn't get to talk to her again. I never spoken to her again. But I will never forget her because she taught me something. She taught me the power of my story. Storytelling triggers oxytocin in our bodies. It's the same hormone that we experience when we hold our babies or when we look at our loved ones in the eyes. It lowers our stress hormones, and it helps us to bond and have strong feelings of affection. Now, I don't know how many of you want more of that, but I know I do. The good news is that all of us have a story, right? And as unique as your fingerprint, as your thumbprint. So when life gets overwhelming and messy, and it will, I promise, I have 7 kids, so I know. It can be so easy for us to withdraw and to retreat. It can feel like, the safest thing to do. But that is the farthest from the truth. The truth is, living disconnected is terrible for our health. We can learn and understand that when we hear people's stories, we can engage because it is an opportunity for connection. Like a game of Pac-Man, lock in and allow yourself to connect. The short amount of time that I was here in Dublin, I had the opportunity of speaking to 4 beautiful people in the city. There was Derek, who loved politics. And there was Robbie, who loved golf, and Nancy, who worked in the healthcare profession and saved lives. And then there was Anne, who had my middle name. And I had the privilege of speaking to each one of these people, and I will leave this beautiful city marked by them. And I trust that they were also marked by me. And as I walked down O'Connell Street, I looked at all of the beautiful different people with all the beautiful stories. And I was filled with hope. Because each one of us, we shine brighter and we heal deeper when we know that we're seen and we're cared for. Now, I leave you with this quote from Maya Angelou, and it's, "There's no greater agony than burying an untold story inside of you." So maybe it's your story, your beautiful, honest, messy stories that have the power to turn the lights back on in this disconnected world. And you know what? Maybe it's the answer to a healthier and happier you. Thank you.